Imagine waking up each morning unsure of whether you had enough food to eat or what informal methods might people use to get by in such a situation. This is the unpleasant reality that many Cubans deal with on a daily basis. While something as basic as hair dye may take up a large portion of a woman's monthly wage, she must carefully consider how to keep her attractiveness. Additionally, it is frequently only accessible through illegitimate means. People sell what they can to make a living, making survival each day a challenge. How do you determine who to trust when dealing with money in such an environment? Come along as we show you Cuba's unvarnished side, which is rarely seen by outsiders. The island of Cuba is full of contradictions, history, and culture. It is well known for its stunning beaches, vintage car-lined streets, and friendly locals. But the reality is far more nuanced than the picture-perfect setting. For visitors, Cuba frequently resembles a timeless paradise where they can stroll through the streets of Havana or sip mojitos on the shores of Varadero. A sense of nostalgia is evoked by colorful facades, vintage cars, and salsa beats. People who wish to learn more about a culture shaped by decades of history and a unique political system are drawn to this location. The harsh, everyday reality of Cuban life, however, is something that most tourists never witness. There is a life of hardship, sacrifice, and limitations behind the surface. The freedom and luxuries that the majority of people in other nations take for granted are not present in this world. Everyday life for Cubans consists of enduring shortages, stringent controls, and the difficulty of obtaining even the most basic necessities. While visitors take pleasure in opulent resorts and restorative experiences, Cubans lead a parallel life in which food is rationed, dissidence carries risks, and prospects are limited. The perception of lengthy lines and pervasive poverty is among the most surprising truths you will encounter in Cuba. Waiting in queue for everyday necessities, often for several hours, is more than just waiting for a cup of coffee in the morning. One of Havana's biggest retail centers, Plaza de Carlos III, is located in the La Victoria area. Although it appears to be a busy shopping center from the outside, what you see inside is quite different. There are long lines of people waiting for their turn to enter, some of them patiently sitting across the block. These folks don't wait for upscale products. They are there to purchase necessities like basic food and toiletries. Shopping is more complicated than just entering a store in a nation where scarcity is a reality. Hours of perseverance and sacrifice are needed, knowing that there is no assurance that what they need will still be available when their turn comes. Some people wait in queue for whole mornings. Hours of silent waiting are more than just a form of resistance. It shows how resilient they are and how they have adapted to live. This reality is hard to imagine for people who are accustomed to a world where everything is accessible with a single tap of a screen. Not just survival is impacted by scarcity. It influences relationships, dating culture, and social life. Imagine organizing a romantic evening, but before you can consider making an impression, you have to wait in queue for basic essentials. Time is more valuable than money in this world. This is just life for people who reside here. Patience is a survival skill in Havana, where resources are erratic, not merely a virtue. Have you ever had to stand in queue just to get necessities? What impact does scarcity have on Cuban daily life, in your opinion? Leave a comment below with your opinions. One of the first things you will notice about Cuba is how hard its people work. Making a little extra cash isn't the only goal. In a nation where scarcity characterizes daily existence, it is a need and a way of life. The government-run stores do not have shelves stocked with everything you could possibly need. Rather, the supply of materials fluctuates from week to week, making them frequently unexpected. People now sell what they can in a huge informal economy that has grown out of this scarcity. People frequently wait at their door and resell goods they have bought from state stores or that have been sent by family members from overseas. Everyday existence is entwined with these unofficial marketplaces. To find necessities that official stores frequently don't have, many Cubans turn to neighborhood small traders. You might see a man selling imported clothing brought by a foreign relative, or a lady selling detergent for clothing she was able to get at the flea market. Seeing people operating tiny enterprises out of their homes or even on the streets may initially seem strange. However, you will eventually recognize that this is the way things are. A basic bag becomes into a mini market, and discussions about specific product locations become a necessary element of day-to-day existence. It's an adaptation, a means of making the most of few resources. This system is more than simply business to Cubans. It is a network based on mutual assistance, trust, and resiliency. Making a sale isn't the only goal. It is about maintaining relationships and supporting one another in a society when scarcity is an indisputable fact. I have a brief request for everyone in attendance before we go any further. It just takes 10 seconds to click the subscribe button if you want to help us out. This enables us to keep providing you with worthwhile content and aids in the growth of our channel. I'm committed to improving every episode with my team. Is it a decent value in your opinion? Beauty is more than simply vanity to many Cuban women. Their identity is reflected in it. Women in Cuba take great pride in looking their best because appearance is highly valued in their society. However, it's hard to stay fashionable and well-dressed in a nation where even basic items are hard to find. Consider anything as basic as hair color. A commodity that would be inexpensive elsewhere could cost nearly a third of the average monthly salary in Cuba. Spending so much on personal care becomes a luxury when you take into account how limited earnings are. The costs of makeup, skincare, and other cosmetics are frequently well above the means of the majority of people. Cuban women need to be very patient, inventive, and creative. While others rely on underground networks to obtain what they need, others save months only to purchase a single item. Cuban women are nevertheless able to exhibit themselves confidently and stylishly in spite of these challenges. In actuality, the majority rely on family members who reside overseas to provide money or necessities. Even getting everyday essentials, let alone cosmetics, would be nearly impossible without this outside assistance. They frequently send food, medicine, clothing, and cosmetics to families who have loved ones in the US, Europe, or Latin America. This reliance entails extra obligations for a lot of women. They provide the support they receive from overseas while managing the household, caring for their kids, and ensuring their families have what they need. Cuban women often play a vital role in maintaining their family's well-being, utilizing all available resources to ensure the appearance but also their family's existence. How do you believe their resilience and tenacity influence who they are and how they live their lives? Let's honor their tenacity and have a discussion about these invisible difficulties. Leave a comment below with your opinions. The difficulty of providing for their children is a theme that all Cuban fathers can relate to. The supply of food in classrooms is a persistent worry. The government's capacity to supply enough wholesome food has been severely constrained for decades. The fight is unrelenting and frequently agonizing, even when parents give up meals to ensure their kids eat. Bread and corn tortillas could be the most basic school lunch, a far cry from the well-rounded diet that many families in other nations offer. And it's getting more and harder to guarantee these basic nutrients. Once considered an affordable source of protein, necessities like eggs have become expensive luxuries for many Cuban households. The cost of one carton of eggs has gone up from about $3,000 to $3,500, or about $10. To put that in context, many Cuban families' whole monthly wage is nearly equal to that amount. The price of necessities shows the hardships people in Cuba experience, where poverty and economic hardships have influenced daily life for decades. The price of a single pound of pork can exceed $1,000 if you visit a Cuban market. This could seem alarming at first, especially given that $1,000 is a significant portion of the average monthly pay. Many families are forced to make tough choices because of the exorbitant costs. In an effort to make ends meet, they frequently choose for less expensive processed meats like ground pork or other substitutes. Many people sell handmade goods or essential items like plastic bags to save enough money for a few pounds of meat. A deeper issue, the struggle to meet even the most basic demands, is reflected in the shortage of staple goods like bread, flour, and pork. For example, bread is a staple in the majority of Cuban households. The loaves that are sold in supermarkets now are frequently the result of the government's booklet-based rationing system. However, even that is not particularly trustworthy. Sometimes there wasn't enough flour to meet demand, Therefore, the bread's weight was simply decreased. In certain parts of Cuba, people have to get up at 3 or 4 in the morning just to buy a loaf of bread. People queue outside the bakeries long before the sun comes up, hoping to get their hands on the few available items. For many families, this is a daily occurrence rather than an isolated annoyance. Nevertheless, Cubans are extraordinarily resilient in spite of these challenges. They are all in this together, regardless of whether they are lining up for bread or surviving off of whatever meat they can find. Finding food is the first priority of the day for many Cubans. It's not as simple as going to the grocery store on foot. Rather, it is a daily struggle that calls for perseverance and perhaps just plain luck. They have a list of things to do when they get up, not to create a future, but simply to get through each day. Though nothing is certain, the hunt for nourishment starts early. Many necessities are still out of reach for people without extra assistance, and prices are high and supply are limited. Many Cubans turn to family or friends overseas when local choices are exhausted. Remittances or money sent by Cubans living abroad, such as in the US or Europe, have become essential for existence. Many rely on this assistance to purchase goods from MIPAMEs and MLIC outlets, which provide fantastic pricing. The price of the items at these shops, however, seems like something from another planet to the majority of Cubans. Some companies may encounter issues regarding transparency in transactions, especially when overseas partners or family members cash to ensure that their loved ones are not going hungry. Although wealthy neighborhoods do exist in Havana, they are not the most common. The great bulk of people lead far more modest lives. Everything from the food on their plates to the homes they live in is impacted by the enormous economic disparity. Cubans must take significant precautions in their daily lives, particularly with regard to food and water. The situation in Cuba is more complex than in many other countries, where people rarely consider the availability of safe drinking water. The way tap water is treated varies. On certain days, it is so chlorinated that the chemicals are palpable, leaving the mouth feeling harsh and nearly metallic. On other days, the reverse occurs. Due to inadequate infrastructure and frequent shortages, the water supply is contaminated. Over time, Cubans' bodies have adjusted to these circumstances. However, drinking tap water when visiting might cause gastrointestinal issues or worse very soon. The greatest option for staying safe is to use bottled mineral water. Simple components like flour, sugar, and oil are the foundation of Cuban cooking, but there is an unseen risk that many people are unaware of. The same cooking oil is frequently used again and again at neighborhood eateries and street markets. This can pose major health dangers in addition to altering the food's flavor. Select eateries that place a high value on food quality and hygiene if you want to be safe. Eating at upscale restaurants or at the same table as a former world leader doesn't have to cost the earth. However, vigilance is essential. Depending on the state of the nation's economy at the time, even well-known eateries face supply shortages. Moving from one location to another is only one aspect of transportation in Cuba. There are many hazards and uncertainties on this path. Reliable public transportation and traditional buses are uncommon. For long-distance transportation, many Cubans instead employ repurposed old vehicles. These cars, which were first built for freight, can now carry passengers for a few bucks. But they're far from secure. Many have been there for decades, are not well maintained, and are prone to mishaps. The risk is further increased by Cuba's poor road conditions. Although private cabs could appear like a better option, vigilance is still necessary when using them. Choose a state cab or arrange travel through a reliable source rather than taking a chance. Just a few bucks more could mean the difference between a perilous circumstance and a safe journey. Prevention is always preferable to regret when it comes to safety. Let's now discuss a different kind of travel. Internal movement. A lot of people relocate to Havana in pursuit of better prospects. For newcomers, however, life in the capital is not simple. Migrants from other provinces may feel as though they are living in a legal limbo when they go to Havana, Cuba. Many suffer from discrimination, work limitations, and precarious housing because to a lack of proper documentation. The difficulties for people who come to Havana in search of a better life don't stop there. They just get started. A world shaped by rumors, jealousy, and marital difficulties awaits those who wish to delve into the secret facets of Cuban culture. Chisme or gossip is more than just a friendly conversation in Cuba. It is a force of culture. News spreads quickly in tiny, tightly knit communities. Neighbors are closely watched, and not much is kept secret. Locals frequently talk about how Cuban society is deeply envious. Personal space is scarce since friends and neighbors are always watching you. Your relationships, way of life, and even everyday routines may become topics of public discourse. Because of this intensive culture of gossip, it might be hard for foreigners to blend in. People will be aware of you whether you like it or not. Beyond rumors, however, the Cuban economy has changed interpersonal interactions, particularly romantic ones. Dates have been shifted by financial difficulties, which prioritize material requirements above feelings. Relationships are not only about passion for many women, they are also about survival. In times of economic hardship, having money is frequently more important than having love. This shift, in which economic stability takes precedence over love, is evident to Cuban men. When visiting a new nation, particularly one as distinctive as Cuba, the inquisitive tourist soon discovers how much the country depends on tourism. This link is demonstrated by the bustling streets of Old Havana, where the rhythms of salsa blend with the city's history. Cuba's dependence on tourism brings both opportunities and challenges. Both legitimate and underground enterprises thrive as tourists flock to the area. Authorized vendors offer regional cuisine, souvenirs, and handicrafts, while some turn to unofficial or even unlawful means of earning a living. Old Havana, one of the best-preserved neighborhoods, demonstrates Cuba's reliance on tourism, according to a local. Cuba's economy has seen a surprising shift in recent years due to the growth of international markets, especially those in Russia. The rise of Russian-owned businesses, which are frequently likened to expansive metropolitan marketplaces, is a sign of the increasing impact of foreign cultures. If you have ever been to Varadero, the well-known tourist destination in Cuba, you may have noticed that the advertisements and signs are now multilingual, showing both Spanish and Russian. Rumor even circulates that a Russian supermarket, offering a range of imported goods, including Russian meat, will soon open in Cuba. It's amazing how these new stores are popping up and how the Russian market is growing, said a recent visitor. All of Varadero's signs now contain Russian, if you've been there previously or are visiting. Even the idea of starting a Russian butcher shop is being discussed. The emergence of these new companies has coincided with a discernible rise in surveillance. More security cameras and areas where filming or taking pictures is expressly forbidden are visible to customers at these establishments. Cuba uses a single system with two currencies. There are two primary currencies in use: the Cuban peso and the freely convertible MLC, sometimes known as the magnetic band currency. The official currency of Cuba is the peso, which is utilized for the majority of everyday transactions, including visiting local landmarks and purchasing food and beverages. The majority of Cubans rely on it as their primary source of income. On the other hand, the MLC functions more like a foreign currency. It is charged on a magnetic band card rather than carried in cash and contains euros, US dollars, and other foreign currencies. Certain stores that offer foreign goods or cater to visitors require this digital card in order to be purchased. Although there are no actual receipts, the MLC card is necessary to purchase in-demand goods that are hard to locate in Cuba. Every transaction is entirely digital. There are two kinds of money in Cuba, according to a local: the Cuban peso, which you will use to pay for meals and travel, and the MLC, which is a form of foreign cash kept on a card. The fluctuating exchange rate between foreign currencies, Cuban pesos, and the MLC is one of the most difficult things about handling money in Cuba. Although the official exchange rate is set by the government, rates are frequently far higher on the black market. Those who want to make the most of their money may find this alluring. On the street, a lot of people would offer to trade money. One traveler said, "But if something goes wrong, who will you turn to if you don't know them?" For tourists who are unfamiliar with Cuba's banking system, this is a crucial caution. Better prices may be found on the black market, but there are significant risks involved. Putting your faith in the incorrect individual might lead to scams, miscounted transactions, or fake bills. Using official sources is the safest way to exchange money in Cuba. Although they might not be as good as the black market, authorized exchange offices and motels provide reasonable prices, and the security is worth the difference. There is no need to be concerned about fraudulent transactions or counterfeit money when using official exchanges. You are fully aware of what you are getting. The city of contrasts is Havana. Its vibrant facade, vibrant streets, and ageless charm all combine to create an enduring sense of beauty. However, beneath this charming exterior lies a serious issue that impacts many locals' day-to-day lives. Waste management, or more accurately, the battle to keep it up. Waste management is a pervasive and obvious issue in Havana, especially outside the tourist zones. Popular tourist destinations are kept up to date, giving the impression that the city is tidy and well-maintained, but the situation in other communities is very different. In the corners of the streets, trash builds up and is occasionally left there for days or even weeks. Waste around residences, companies, and educational institutions is an unavoidable aspect of daily life for residents, particularly those who reside in less traveled areas. According to a Cuban resident, garbage is an ongoing and unresolved issue. Although visitors might not be aware of it, makeshift landfills pose a health risk to locals in many places. It's shocking to see the stark contrast between Havana's untouched tourist districts and its underprivileged local neighborhoods. The difficulties that lie just beyond these immaculate neighborhoods may go unnoticed by tourists who stroll through old Havana's immaculate streets or take in the sights of the Malecon Sea. A quick walk to some of the city's less frequented districts, however, reveals a different picture. In Havana, the problem's severity varies. The impact is greater in certain places than others. Regular waste collection and upkeep services help the wealthiest and tourist-friendly districts, which also receive greater attention. In contrast, the situation is far worse in less favored neighborhoods, particularly those located outside of the city. Long wait times for waste collection are common in places like Centro Habana and portions of La Liza, which results in overflowing bins and growing garbage piles. In these areas, the waste management conflict has come to represent Cuba's broader economic woes. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel if you liked today's video. We are really grateful for your support. The video that is currently playing on your screen can be clicked. You'll love this information, I'm sure. Which country would you like to see on our channel? Please comment below. I appreciate you watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Your presence here with us today makes us very happy. To help us out, please like the video, subscribe for more, and leave a comment. I'll see you shortly.